All right, so welcome back, and we're gonna get right on it. As you can see, some things have changed. We already looked over the completed mall and our little cement factory that we're already putting to good use. Our pathway is already nice and new cement, so we can move pretty quickly around. First thing you'll notice is that our sciences are gone. Basically, we've completed everything we could without chemical science, so they were not doing anything and just taking up space. And as we're transitioning to a city block style, this will be our HQ slash camp base of operations, where we pick up the stuff that we're going to use to actually build out our city blocks. As I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a chicken and egg situation between setting up a good rail system and having our first oil because we need oil for explosives. The way that I fixed that was a very lazy way. I basically piped everything back. So let's take a look at that. And since I was lucky enough that I had this oil spawn that is not ridiculously far, so it's kind of okay that I brought it in pipes. So let's take a quick look. I don't know if this applies to this current version of the game, but in previous versions, if you did not use a pump every so often, you actually wouldn't get enough throughput of oil. It would basically stall out and all of your pipes will be half full. It seems that with the pumps, I actually managed to keep our pipes full. So I basically did one screen of distance between pumps. It was a very out of the top of my head measurement, but that's how we ended up measuring it out. Here's our tiny little oil outpost. It has some turrets. And the oil setup is basically they all feed into this one main line, which goes into this pump and off to the base. I put a radar in so that we can see how things are going. And I'm a little OCD with the light poles. I try to keep all the light poles at a 45 angle degree or a 9 angle degree so it looks nice in the map view. I know, it's just an aesthetic thing. You honestly don't need to concern about. So that's our oil output, and as I run back to the base here, I'll just give you a little bit of a status update. So we removed our science. We were using that space to build out the stuff that we were missing from our mall that required oil. That's explosives and then light panels, solar panels, and accumulators. The reason why we'll need those is that it's a much more scalable solution when we have as much room. So you can see that here. This is our little pipeline that will make our explosives. Here they are. And then we have here our solar panels. I'm still not happy with this design. I miscalculated the amount of batteries I'll need. So one factory won't be enough, but two might be. So I kind of jimmy rigged this one in here. I will refactor this. And my idea is just like the concrete, this is tileable. So if I need more production, I'll just tile it to the left here. Same thing as our cement. So I've already started to kind of plan out how our city blocks will go. I haven't started actually building. These are all like just copy pasting things in. So here's the intersection city block. And this is where our straightaways will go, leaving enough room above on the sides, above and below on the sides too, so that we need stations. And then the actual factories will be on the in-between blocks. Kind of a big setup. As you can see, each block is about the size of our little starting camp. Actually nearly the size. But I want to make sure that things are scalable for the future. Eventually we'll want to have beacon setups, and those usually take a lot of room. Not to mention that steel smelting and at the scale that we'll need, it will also be very big. So I want to make sure that I keep that and everything nice and consistent in size. So that's the update. Probably next time I'll log in, we already have moved most of our stuff to the city block style. So I'll start off by doing some smelting setup, some outposts, and probably the initial sciences again, up to now including chemical science. So I'll see you guys in the next update. Some time has passed, and we've gotten our blueprint of our rail network and our city blocks very much underway. As you can see from the map view, we already have some stations set up. We have our train parking yard, and most of our rail is already set up. I cheaped out on some of the intersections because it's extremely cumbersome to do them by hand. And eventually, since the next step is chemical science, it'll give us robots, and then I'll use the robots to fill in the gaps where they need it. I want to talk a little bit about the outposts, so let's check it out over here. I have this one set up. So this is our regular train station, and little curiosity about this is that I have the boxes all connected by a circuit that feeds into this combinator. Where it says our type of ore is less than what a train can carry, it's going to output the reg signal with a 1 value. And then up here we have another combinator connected to the station, and the station is outputting a T signal when a train is there. And this thing takes the T signal if there's a train there, and then outputs the red. This will make it so that if there's a red signal bigger than 0, it will enable the station. So whenever there's no red signal, the station is enabled. This means that the stations will only be enabled if they have enough to fill a train, and if there's not a train parked there already. Every time the station will turn on, every available train for that type of schedule will target the station. The first one to get there will basically win, and the other ones will take the bypass lane to go back to the train yard. It's probably a complicated setup, but it will prevent us from having one train per station, and it'll be more efficient because then we can have more trains, more throughput, and be able to manage things like that. A different one is the oil station, but it takes the same logic except with liquids. So we're just going to run along here, kind of take a look. That is the train yard. This is our personal train. And we're going to use our personal train to move around a little bit here. So this is already built out the outpost. So let's go to this spot. As the train goes here, you can see the section, and then it's going to go do the little loop. And then it arrives at the station. Now you can see the station is turned off because there's a train occupying the lane, even though it has plenty of resources. So that's the generic idea. We also here we can take a look of what the mining drill setup looks like. Basically several lanes, and then it feeds into this complicated thing. I did not make these things. I actually downloaded a book that has all kinds of balancers. It's made by Bilke. You can look him up. He does a lot of cool factorial stuff. But basically what this ensures is that all the ore that comes into these 3 splitters will come out evenly divided by these 4 belts. Each one of them goes to one side of the carriage. That is to optimize the time the train spends filling up, so that it fills up evenly and the quickest way possible. Now we're going to hop on the train again, and we're going to go check out the oil station. Gotta go to the roundabout and back up. Takes a little bit. Probably should think of something to say in these spots, but hey. So we arrived, as you can see, the station turned off even though it has resources to fill. If you look at there, we have 99K of oil ready to go. And this is what the oil output setup looks like. It's the same logic except with the liquid and connected to the tanks instead of boxes. So you can see here, if our oil is less than 50K, which is what a train can carry, then it outputs the red signal to turn off the station. And again, as we saw before, this is kind of the oil setup. Still incomplete. I need a few more. But that is basically the setup. Next up is to actually start remaking our sciences. As you can see from the map view, I've started laying out our blocks. So I'm basically thinking we have this square down here available. I'll probably put the science labs here. And then I'll put the sciences along this axis. So probably red science, green science, and on and on. And then on this side, the rest of the sciences. So we'll go vertically up. And as you can see, it's starting to take shape. one thing I wanted to talk about that I didn't talk about previously before. One of the big requirements for me to actually plan out this correctly was to be able to see more of the map and where the resources are, so I can generally build or grid in that direction. And the way that I did that is with these little setups. They're pretty great. It's just a radar surrounded by accumulators, surrounded by solar panels, and all connected by this one electrical network. The reason why these are great is that you can put them anywhere because they don't actually make pollution. So they won't be attacked by biters, they'll just completely ignore it, and allows us to start spreading these out pretty far away to start clearing the map. So I've done this loop, and once I actually have a car or a tank built out, I will go around and take out some of these bases and put another line of these radars so that we can even see more and more of the map. The next things that's going to happen after the sciences and all this set up is to probably start thinking about more intense defenses. I mean, we'll only get artillery fairly late in the game. Meanwhile, we'll have to establish a perimeter. I'm thinking that we can probably leverage either flamethrower turrets in combination with regular ammo turrets, but that is a design that I haven't really think about yet, so I'll probably hop in the creative mode and start thinking of how I can fit that into our city grid so that we can have an outer perimeter that keeps the locals out of our base and avoid any catastrophe like that. So seems like I did a lot, but it's only a few hours of actually laying down rails and the electrical poles along the sides so that we can spread it out. So I will continue to build probably next couple of days since we're during the week, and then probably around next weekend we'll have a new video with all the sciences set up.